Hello, this is Tony Heller from RealClimateScience.com. 50 years ago, Monty Python released their Dead Parrot sketch. Michael Palin sold John Cleese a dead parrot, and then he went on for hours insisting that the parrot was alive. It was impressive how he kept the scam going for several hours, but what if you could keep a scam alive for decades? That's exactly what's going on in the Arctic. The press keeps insisting that the Arctic is melting and that polar bears are dying and are headed towards extinction. The reality is that polar bear populations are 5 times larger than they were during the 1950s and 4 times larger than the 1970s. Ice gain on the Greenland ice sheet has been above average for 4 of the last 6 years, including this year. We're halfway through the Arctic summer, and the surface mass balance of Greenland has been above average every single day. Greenland has been cold, and there's been a lot of new snow falling on the surface of the ice sheet. The lower elevations of the ice sheet have gained a lot of ice over the past year, and that's exactly where the press claims the ice is melting. Temperatures at the North Pole have been below the 1958 to 2002 average every single day for the past few months. Not surprisingly, Arctic sea ice is melting very slowly and is in the normal range. Arctic sea ice extent is higher now than it was 15 years ago when Nobel laureate Al Gore predicted an ice-free Arctic by the year 2014.
Another new study to be presented by U.S. Navy researchers later this week warns it could happen in as little as 7 years. 7 years from now. In the last few months, it has been harder and harder to misinterpret the signs that our world is spinning out of kilter.
Joe Biden's climate envoy, John Kerry, predicted the same thing.
You have sea ice, which is melting at a rate that the Arctic Ocean now increasingly is exposed. In 5 years, scientists predict we will have the first ice-free Arctic summer.
NASA's James Hansen started the global warming scare before Congress during the summer of 1988. 20 years later, he predicted an ice-free Arctic between the years 2013 and 2018. Leading congressional Democrats said he was right, and they recognized him as a climate prophet. The Sierra Club said that the Arctic would be ice-free in the year 2013. In 2008, Norway's leading expert predicted the Arctic would be ice-free that summer. Canada's leading expert predicted the North Pole would be ice-free that summer. Mark Cerise, the lead scientist at the National Snow and Ice Data Center in Boulder, Colorado, predicted the North Pole would be ice-free in 2008. In 2007, Canada.com quoted one of their leading Arctic experts with a frightening projection for Arctic melt. The Arctic Ocean could be free of ice in the summer as soon as 2010 or 2015, something that hasn't happened for more than 1 million years, according to a leading polar researcher. Had he done any actual research, he would have known that the Arctic was likely ice-free 6,000 years ago when carbon dioxide levels in the atmosphere were much lower. This was around the time when Stonehenge was built and the polar bears survived just fine. There's no scientific basis to the claims that polar bears need ice all year round. In 2008, British swimmer Lewis Pugh listened to the scientists. The scientists said that the North Pole would be ice-free that summer, so Lewis Pugh tried to kayak 500 kilometers from Svalbard to the North Pole. But he didn't make it very far. He got blocked by ice about 20 kilometers out of Svalbard. So he planted a flag in the ice, declared victory, and turned around and went back. Russia fell for the Arctic melting scam and got dozens of ships trapped in the ice last autumn. 14 years ago, when Al Gore was predicting an ice-free Arctic, I was saying something completely different. I wrote this article in the Register on August 15, 2008. Arctic ice refuses to melt as ordered. It was obvious to me that people predicting an ice-free Arctic didn't understand science and had no clue what they were talking about. This got me censored and labeled as a climate denier because I was one of the few people telling the truth. Now let's take a look at the other pole. Last winter was the coldest on record in Antarctica. But the Australian government says that emperor penguins face extinction because of Antarctic sea ice loss. Meanwhile, back in the real world, Antarctica is having another very cold winter, and the cold air is moving up into Australia. Even the tropical north of West Australia is experiencing extraordinary low temperatures. Eastern Australia is having their coldest start to winter on record, and they're running short of electricity because they've shut down their fossil fuels based on superstitions about carbon dioxide. So the Guardian is writing their typical propaganda, trying to convince freezing cold people that they're actually burning up because of global heating. Al Gore has made hundreds of millions of dollars off this scam. It pays extremely well for its participants. It was impressive how Michael Palin kept the dead parrot scam going for several hours. But even more impressive is how the press has kept the polar melting scam going for more than 15 years. The reason they're able to keep these polar scams going is because the poles are very far away, the climate is hostile, and very few people are actually familiar with what's going on there. Highly educated Western liberals believe what they read in the New York Times and hear on National Public Radio. This makes it really easy for globalists to control them as useful idiots. Unlike Guardian readers, Toto understands the difference between hot and cold. You can visit him, Kyrie Caesar, Toki and Upala on the web at realclimatescience.com.